Hi friends, it's Allie Chambers here again, and I am here to talk about one of the more exciting things that has happened in my photography career, and that is this new lens, the Canon RF 28-70 2.0. Let's go ahead and get into it. If you are wanting the specs about this lens, this is not the video for that. This is more of how a wedding photographer would feel about the 28-70 lens. Some background, I have been in weddings since fall of 2018, and I've had some years where I've had smaller amounts of weddings and then some years where I've had more weddings. Last year I did 38 weddings and it left me high and dry, feeling very tired, a little bit creatively burnt out, and also wanting to figure out a simpler system for wedding days, and this has been the solution for all of those issues for me. I would shoot 8+ hour wedding days and I would have two either 5D Mark IVs or a Canon R6 on here. Regardless, I've had two camera bodies on my harness and would wear that around for most of the day and then maybe take it off at the reception. It was not working out great for me. And I've seen a lot of people make the movement from a more complicated setup to having all these different lenses that they use throughout the wedding day. And as fun as it has been to use, my 35, my 50, my 135, my 70-200, my 24-70, all of these different focal lengths, it kind of left me wishing that I just had one system that I could keep with me all the time. And I found myself getting a little frustrated when moments were happening really fast, as they do on a wedding day, feeling really restricted to a fixed focal length. Enter the chat, the 28-70. This lens has changed it all for me. I don't shoot super low in my business. I don't shoot usually lower than like a 1.8 or 1.6. I maybe will do it for some creative shots or for some nighttime shots. But as for how low I shoot, I have been loving the 2.0. What a 50 focal length looks like on this camera lens and what a 50mm looks like to me is not recognizable. It may be recognizable slightly if you really zoom in, but as for what I'm seeing in my editing process and what I'm delivering to my clients, it's unrecognizable. Things that I love about this lens. I love that I can feel like I can go through a wedding day, other than the ceremony, depending on how long the aisle is at a ceremony site, I will keep this on literally all day. I might add a zoom lens or a 70-200 or 135 on another camera body so that I can get some of those tighter shots during a ceremony. As for everything else, this is what I'm using. I will say, and we'll get into this later, I don't use this during receptions, and I'll tell you why. Everything else, detail shot, family portraits, couples portraits, wedding party portraits, you name it, I'm using this. And I love it because if you've ever shot a wedding and you go from ceremony, maybe you have a 35mm on at some point, and then immediately you're going into family photos because they've all hung out at the ceremony site and they're all staring at you and they're like, okay, we're ready, we're here. And you're like, okay, well, hang on, let me change lenses really quick. You can feel these people just waiting for you. I personally don't love that feeling. I don't love it. Now I'm just ready to go. And I always had this issue where, I'd get the last name of the extended family photo, but I wouldn't know how big this group is, and then it would be a lot bigger than my 35 would feel comfortable going. So I'd feel like, okay, well, now I feel like I need to have my 24-70 2.8, or I'm having to back up super far or stack people in. The 28 focal length for a big group photo does great, in my opinion. It doesn't really warp people on the outsides in the way that you would think that it would. No less than a 35 would for a large group photo if you're backing up really far. And then if I want to be able to get some more portraiture stuff, I can zoom into 50 or I can zoom into 70 if I want to, and still have a lot of variety in a gallery. It does take a little bit of changing your perspective on how you approach shooting, because usually you're moving your body forward and backward if you're on a fixed focal length. This has been a really easy transition for me. I think that I've always been paying attention through the viewfinder so that whenever I do think, oh, well, this angle would be great, I'm not having to go get super tight into their personal space. I can just zoom lens. You see where we're going with this. Now, let's talk about the downside. Downside is it's expensive. It's not a cheap lens. It also is always out of stock. I had to refresh Canon's page multiple times to wait and see when this was going to be in stock. And if you are ready to buy one, tomorrow, just because you heard so many great things about it, I would recommend going to Canon's website, just refreshing, seeing when it's not going to show on back order. It was just a random, I think Tuesday for me, that I saw that it was in stock and I ordered it and got it I think 5 days later. A lot of the different sites that are third party that sell Canon lenses, they have shown back ordered for a long time. It's August that I'm recording this, and I started being on their wait list maybe in May of this year, and I have not seen any of them come into stock. They're kind of hit or miss when you can find them. The price point is tough, but in my opinion, it replaces so many other lenses. I don't plan on getting rid of my lenses just because, I don't know, I like having the backup, and I also love those lenses in case I ever do get tired of this one. I'm not ready to let go of those just yet. Another downside. This is a heavy lens, okay? I don't know if it's heavier than the 7200. I think it feels heavier. When you start to like actually do things with it, you're like, ah, okay, that doesn't feel great. You are going to have two hands on this camera, whether you like it or not. Now, if you have really strong wrists and this just feels light to you, that's great for you. Not these wrists, not these, no. And I was really interested whenever I first started playing around with this lens because I rented it a couple of times before I bought it to see how I would like it. The interesting thing to me is I was like, okay, back pain versus wrist pain. How are we gonna feel about those things? The back pain, not having that, it's great. I also didn't find myself getting a lot of wrist pain. I went a couple of weeks without shooting a wedding and apparently lost some muscle stamina in one of these arms because I felt sore like right in here the next day. But a lot of that was because I shot more of this on a reception than I normally would. So that's another downside, is that I would not recommend shooting a reception with this. As much as I love the 28 focal length, shooting down for dance floor like this, especially with a flash on top, is not your friend. That's your enemy. It will wear you out. So usually for receptions, I'll go back down to my 24-70 2.8 and it works great for me. Really the big downsides are the price point. It's a little high. It's really high. I'm just gonna be honest. And the fact that it is a really heavy lens. Other than that, it has replaced every single lens that I have for all of these lengths. And I feel like my galleries are a lot more, they provide more variety at this point. I find myself going from 35 to 50, zooming all the way into 70, really going wide. And I've shot in, like a minute, all of these different lengths where it would take me time to, okay, I took that photo, let me make sure that this camera is now, the same settings that I want. It's been incredible. I had a lot of photographer friends of mine that had bought this lens and they were really hyping it up, and I'm like, I don't know, it's really heavy, it's also really expensive. The more weddings that I shot, I just got tired of the harness, and I still wear my harness with this camera on it, but I just found myself getting so tired of feeling just all day. So my shoulders have been free. My wrists aren't in a state of chaos. They feel fine. If you can get your hands on one, I can't recommend it enough. If you want to sample one and you've never used Lens Rentals before, Lens Rentals is a company here in Tennessee, or it's based out of Tennessee. And you can use my code to get $25 off your first order. I've loved Lens Rentals. That's how I rented this lens twice to make sure that I really liked it before I, made this investment. And both times it sold me and I could not get my hands on one quick enough. That is my wedding photographer approach to the Canon 28-70 RF lens 2.0. In the comments section below, if you've used this lens, let me know your thoughts. Or if you have another lens that you're like, this is my one size fits all lens, I use it for everything, let me know in the comments. I'd love to see those. And if you could, and if you would, subscribe for a good time. I'm gonna go put my baby back in her crib. That's how you gotta hold it, because it's dense. But you're gonna be so in love with this new baby that you're just gonna wanna just swoon, just rock it. They don't stay little forever. Thank you all for watching. As always, it's been a pleasure. I will see you next time. Bye.